Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining me for this fourth session of the Optimal Health Group. So I'm excited to get started today, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody is, since you're watching the recording, just make sure that you are sending me an email and that you're watching the recording before the next recording happens, since we're building on topics, and that makes sure that you get your attendance points. So you want to get 5 out of the 6 webinars for these groups to be able to get those 50 wellness points at the end today, or the end of the course here. So thanks so much, and here we go. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? So Optimal Health Group really was having fun researching this stuff this past week. But just to review first here, so what we've been talking about, greens, so adding greens into your diet, eating breakfast. So I've gotten some great feedback on some of you who weren't eating breakfast. You're currently eating breakfast and you're feeling so much better. Really having a protein source, so checking and experimenting with different types of protein sources and noticing how you feel when you eat red meat as opposed to eating chicken or fish or a vegetarian option. Your great grains, so increasing your variety of grains, so not only just using white bread products, kind of getting those out of the way, but having whole grain products or even ancient grains such as your quinoa and your couscous, experimenting with different types of foods, packing your lunch, so really important to save yourself some money and saving some gas money and bring your lunch, but learning how to cook enough at dinner time so you have leftovers for the next day or throughout the week. And then that concept of primary food, so making sure that you're touching base with all aspects of your life so we can get this nice holistic view on health. We're not just looking for your diet and your exercise. We want to make sure that you're nice and balanced. So really revisiting that Circle of Life handout that we sent out at the last session. All right, so if we're building each week, so hopefully you're hitting each one of these goals. But if you haven't, you can always start. Today's a new day. Tomorrow's a new day. So just pick back up if you're kind of falling behind there. And check in with me. Let me know how you're doing. Especially checking in with me on success stories. So those of you just listening in here now, I'd love to hear from you. I want to be able to highlight some of you who are getting great success. Share these stories at our next visit. So if you could email me at that jdominus@msconsultants.com and let me know your success stories. Let me know how you've been going. We're 8 weeks in now, and I'm really interested to see your progress, your success. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about cholesterol. The cholesterol in your blood, so also fat. Fat that you're eating, the good, the bad, and ugly fats. Using fat for weight loss or weight maintenance. So some of you in this program are trying to still lose weight. So how can we use fat to help you do that? Reducing your body fat. So even if you're at a healthy weight, it's still important to make sure that you're not all fat weight. And then strength training, so using strength training to keep your muscles nice and healthy and strong. So leading causes of death related to diet, your heart disease, some cancers, strokes, and diabetes. So genetics obviously play a role in some of these diseases, but there is a plethora of information out there saying that lifestyle and diet directly affects these diseases. Heart disease and some cancers, those are your top 2 killers in the United States, and strokes and diabetes don't come far down the line there. So 10% of our healthcare costs are going towards diet-related diseases alone. So really important to start learning about this and how you can start making some changes. What do your lab results mean? So I've had the pleasure of talking to most of you on our wellness consults on an individual basis, looking at your lab values, those biometrics data that you've taken. I wanted to just touch base with going over these lab results and then making sure you're still, working toward getting those in good range, or how do you keep those in good range. So cholesterol. So the major, some of these lab values are going to add up to your total cholesterol. A good range is under 200. So elevated range is 200 to 240, and then high is above 240. So there's 3 types of cholesterols in your blood that we're looking at. Your low-density lipoproteins, which is your LDL, your bad cholesterol, your high-density lipoproteins, your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, and then your triglycerides. So these are all circulating around in your blood system. Low-density lipoproteins are your bad cholesterol, your LDL. The functions of this is it carries cholesterol from the liver to the rest of your body, and excess creates plaque, which can narrow your arteries and limit your blood flow. So when plaque breaks apart, it can cause a heart attack or a stroke. So really important not to have a big bunch of this. And so a big bunch of this LDL cholesterol floating around in your system. A good range is going to be 101 to 125, or 129 rather. And then optimal range is less than 100. So most of you are doing pretty good with these LDL levels, but we're going to talk about how you're going to be able to bring those down here in a moment. Your high-density lipoproteins, your HDL, your good cholesterol, so it pulls out the excess cholesterol lining the walls of your blood vessels, and then it brings it to the liver for reprocessing. So it keeps your arteries clean from buildup that causes strokes and heart attacks. Something very interesting is that for every 1 point increase in your HDL cholesterol, your good cholesterol, there's a 3% decrease in the risk of you suffering from a fatal heart attack. So really important to get that high density lipoproteins, that HDL cholesterol increased. Healthy ranges, so a low range is less than 40 for men and less than 50 for women. So a good range is between 50 and 60, and optimal is above 60 for both men and women. So good range, 50 to 60, men and women too. This was a category that a lot of you were low in. So I'd really like to see increase for everybody, bringing these HDL up, and we're going to talk about how to do that here in a moment. The third type of lipid that's circulating in your blood is these triglycerides. So the function of this is that it provides your body with energy. So it's an excess is not a good thing. So energy also equates to kind of weight and stored fat. The cons, that it stores the unused calories that you're eating in your cells. Elevated levels of this can thicken your artery walls, and this can increase your risk of stroke, heart attack, and heart disease. So a healthy range is less than 150. So definitely something to bring down if you're above range. Now, how are you going to use diet and exercise to reach these healthy lab values? To increase your HDL, so this good cholesterol, I'd like you to really think about, look at your lifestyle and your diet. Can you increase your exercise or at least get 20 to 30 minutes of exercise most days of the week? It's recommended that you get 150 minutes of moderate activity. So at the first or second session of this Optimal Health group, we talked about your heart rate zones. You can review those handouts and make sure that you're getting 20 to 30 minutes in your heart rate zone to really do benefits. Losing weight. So if you're overweight, 10 pounds can increase your HDL by 1.5 points. If you're a smoker, quitting smoking can raise your HDL by up to 4 points. Limiting your consumption of simple carbohydrates. So simple carbohydrates are your white bread products and your sweets and your sugary drinks. So these foods can actually lower your HDL cholesterol and raise your triglycerides. So 2 things we don't want to happen. Boosting up your fiber. So soluble fiber that's found in your fruits and your vegetables, your nuts and your grains can help boost your HDL cholesterol. And then increasing the amounts of your healthy fats, which we're really going to hit home on this in the next couple of slides. So avoiding your trans fats and your hydrogenated oils, which we're going to talk about, but limiting your saturated fat intake too, which we're going to discuss. So how are you going to reduce your LDL, the bad cholesterol, and triglycerides? So again, some of these things are the same. Losing weight, if you're overweight, 5 to 10 pounds or 10% of body weight can help decrease your triglyceride levels and your LDL levels. Cutting back on this excess calories. So if you're over-consuming food, your portions are out of control, your triglycerides are going to go up. They're going to get stored as fat. Eliminating sugar and white bread products again. So these simple carbohydrates can increase these levels. So choosing healthier fats. So again, we're going to hit home on this here. And then switching to eating healthy fats. So monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. You might have heard of the omega-3 fats, which we're going to hit. If the foods that you're eating your portions might not be as wild as this guy with his pancakes, but if they're pretty, hefty, it's something to take a consideration, even if you're not overweight. We want to start looking at the types of foods that you're eating, the types of fats. So what is this dietary fat? What are we consuming in the American diet or in your current fare individually? The good fats, unsaturated fats. Most of the time they're liquid at room temperature. There's two types. You have your monounsaturated fats and then your polyunsaturated fats. We're going to talk about what types of these are at the next slide. Your polyunsaturated fats are broken down into your omega-3 and your omega-6s. Those are the most common types that you hear about. These monounsaturated fats, so what does that mean to you? So when you're looking at products such as your olive oil, your peanut oil, and canola oils, your avocados, your nuts, such as your hazelnuts, your almonds, and your pecans, and then your seeds, your pumpkin seeds and your sesame seeds, and then also your polyunsaturated fats, so your sunflower, your corn, soybean, and flaxseed oils, your walnuts, your flax seeds, fish, and canola oil is in both categories there. But both of these all of those are polyunsaturated fats and oils. So breaking those down to your omega-3 and your omega-6s, these your body cannot make. They're essential fatty acids, they're called. You know, over the course of the past couple years, we've gotten an abundance of omega-6s in our diet. So if we jump down to the bottom part of this slide, omega-6s compete with your omega-3s for enzymes, which you don't necessarily want to be doing. The function of the omega-6s are it's involved in fat storage, stiffness of your cell walls, and clotting, and the inflammation response. So thinking about these as omega-6s as sturdy and slow, and then your omega-3s are your fleet and flexible. They spoil quicker than your omega-6s, so that when you cook them, the properties decrease or lessen or go away completely. They're involved in your neurological development and processing, the permeability of your cell walls, the metabolism of glucose, and the calming of inflammation. So really important benefits. They also help to decrease your bad cholesterol. They also play a role in depression, lessening the effects of depression. So it's really important to increase the omega-3s that you're getting and not necessarily your omega-6s. We're looking for a ratio of 1-to-1 ratio. The current American's getting sometimes up to 20-to-1 ratio, 20 to omega-6 to 1 to omega-3. So it's something to just kind of look at your current diet and see, you know, what's your intake look like right now. Here's some polyunsaturated fats that are high in your omega-3s. Your canola oil, your walnuts, your flax seeds, your cold water fish, such as your trout, herring, mackerel, tuna, and salmon. So those are ways to get this good omega-3s in. Being aware here. So some polyunsaturated fats, like your corn, soy, safflower, and sunflower oils, when you heat them, they create free radicals. So this is in your processed foods. When it's packaged, sometimes the bars, your chips is another big culprit. That when they're heated, the cooking process, it creates free radicals, and then it's not a healthy oil anymore. The free radicals can initiate disease. Avoid eating these oils in processed foods and when cooked. So really kind of checking in, you know, or vegetable oils that you're cooking with, you want to eliminate with your processed foods, you know, looking at your frozen fries or your chips. Using canola and olive oil when cooking instead. So looking for, you know, if you want French fries, maybe cooking your own so you're using those healthy oils as opposed to getting maybe some unhealthy effects from the oils that you're using. How to increase your omega-3s. When possible, use omega-3 sources as opposed to omega-6. Eating cold water fish 2 to 3 times a week. So if you're not a fish eater, you know, doing a fish oil supplement, which I spoke to you maybe on an individual basis. If you have questions about that, please let me know. I'm happy to discuss what a good supplement would be for you, making sure to get your omega-3s in. But really even finding it through a food source would be great. Fish also cooks really quickly, so if you're limited on time. Another good sources are chia seeds. So what is that? I put that in on purpose because I want you to expand your horizons. So chia seeds are a small seed. They kind of are the same size as flax, but they're purplish gray color. I'm also going to give you a recipe for a chia pudding, so you can use it for a breakfast or for a dessert. Flaxseed, which you actually need to grind the flaxseed to get the beneficial properties, and you cannot cook them. So if you see a product that says made with flaxseed, but it's a chip, that a lot of times it's not ground and then it's cooked, so it denatures the properties that makes it good for you. So the best way to do it is eating these flaxseed raw. You know, you can put them, sprinkle them in your oatmeal or cereals or on top of your soups. Another good source is walnuts and the oils such as flaxseed and canola oil. So you can put your flaxseed in your smoothies, especially if you're not looking to lose weight or even if you want to gain weight. You can put the flaxseed directly into your smoothie. If you're trying to lose weight, just be aware. You know, 1 tablespoon is going to be about 120 calories. You know, canola oil, not necessarily something you want to throw in your shake, but it's something great to cook with. Saturated fat, this is your bad. We went from the good, now the bad. Saturated fat, it's solid at room temperature. Animal sources such as your red meat and your full-fat dairy products, cheese, milk, ice cream, butter, and then eggs, desserts, all those contain your saturated fats. Chicken, nuts, olive oil, walnuts, salmon also contain small amounts of your saturated fat. Saturated fat got a really bad rap. We still need it somewhat in our diet, but we just don't want to eat it all the time, and it be the only type of fat that we're getting. Plant sources also, coconut, coconut oil, palm, and palm kernel oil. There's Homer Simpson just really putting down a big cheeseburger. So not only does it have the saturated fat of your red meat, but it's also, I'm assuming he's probably eating full-fat cheese, which is okay, again, in moderation, but not an abundance of it. What is contributing to our saturated fat intake? Pizza. Pizza is one of the major things that's causing the saturated fat for most Americans. Regular cheese being at the top there. Pizza, grain desserts and dairy desserts, your chicken and your chicken mix dishes, your dark chickens, your sausage, franks, bacon, ribs, burgers. Those are your top ones. Eggs comes a bit lower on the category there. You know, if you're watching your cholesterol intake, maybe don't do more than 4 eggs per week or less. But for most people, not doing more than maybe 2 a day or 2 every other day. You know, you just don't want to eat too much of these products, but, you can have them in some amounts. Now the ugly fats, so your trans fats and your partially hydrogenated oils. So these are the ones I really want you to try to avoid or eliminate most if possible. They can increase your LDL, so they can increase your bad cholesterol, and it can actually decrease your good cholesterol, your HDL cholesterol. So why do we use this? Because it increases the flavor, it extends the shelf life, and gives a solid texture to your baked or your fried foods. So it's used widely in the restaurant and processed food industry. It's also naturally found in beef fat and dairy fat. It promotes inflammation, so it's something that we're looking to not have, inflammation. In your arthritis, for some of you, your joints are inflamed, or your body's inflamed, your gut's inflamed. We want to decrease these things from happening. So decreasing the intake of this oil. It's implicated in your heart disease, your strokes, diabetes, and many chronic conditions. So these products up here might look tempting. Oreos, croissants, biscuits, brownies. However, they're really doing a number on your insides. Crisco is one of those things. Crisco, or your creams that make your desserts maybe taste oh so good, but really not so good for your insides. Harmful effects, again, just really driving it home. Harvard did a study in 1993 that strongly supported that hydrogenated vegetable oils contribute to your risk of having a heart attack. So that Little Debbie or whatever that's there, that cupcake that you get at the gas station on a road trip or at the grocery store, that can really contribute to hardening your arteries. Eliminating trans fats from the U.S. food supply could prevent up to 1 in 5 heart attacks and related deaths. So 250,000 fewer heart attacks, related deaths each year in the United States if we eliminated trans fats from the U.S. And this was from the Center of Disease Control. So they projected this. What foods are you eating that contain these trans fats? So again, the restaurant industry, your fried foods, your savory snacks, so buttered popcorn or out at the movie theater. Frozen pizzas, cakes, cookies, pies, margarine. Margarine was claimed to be a health product. However, it contains that trans fats. Your spreads, your ready-to-use frostings, and your coffee creamers. So really just looking, what types of foods that I'm eating could be contributing to my intake of trans fats. And then really important, reading the nutrition label. So it was so important that the FDA required all packages to be listed, to list the trans fats in their ingredient labels. So if you're looking at this nutrition fact label, under your fat, you see your saturated, and then they list your trans fat at 2 grams there. So they have to list it now. This is so important. However, there's a gray area. If a product contains less than 0.5 grams of trans fats, then it will not be listed on your ingredient label. So if you're overeating these products, that can add up. Many restaurants are still using trans fats in their cooking. New York has banned all trans fats from restaurants, and some states are kind of jumping on the bandwagon or in the process of this happening. All of the MS locations, the states that you're in, do not require that trans fats be eliminated from all restaurants. So do your research. Some restaurants have said, we're going to eliminate this. So you can ask around, go online, and check. Another really important thing is to read the ingredients, not only the nutrition facts. This says trans fat 0 grams. However, when you look in the ingredient label, partially hydrogenated cottonseed oil. So if you read, if it says anything containing partially hydrogenated oils or trans fats, you want to eliminate that. That's not a great product for you to be eating. So it doesn't have to be partially hydrogenated cottonseed oil. It could say soy or safflower. Those, you still want to nix those products. On that same thing with your ingredient label, if it says this contains safflower or soybean oil, sunflower oil in the ingredients, that means it's been cooked, especially if it's sitting on the shelf. That means it turns into those free radicals. So you want to limit or avoid those products. Tips on lowering your trans fat intake. Reading your nutrition labels and ingredients. Avoid commercially prepared baked goods, your cookies, your pies, your donuts, your snack foods, fried foods, processed foods, and restaurant and fast foods. So if that sounds like the majority of what you're eating, take a step back and see if you can find some healthier choices. Do your research for your restaurant. Start cooking some foods at your house. Assume all products contain trans fats unless they're labeled otherwise. Using monounsaturated and polyunsaturated oils when cooking, and then increasing your intake of vegetables, fruits, great grains, and lean meats. So that process of crowding out. So you're decreasing the bad foods by increasing the good foods. Oh, back up here. So does eating fat make you fat? No, it does not. So for the fear, there's such a fear that was ingrained with starting at the beginning of the 90s when they said fat was bad for you, fat's making America fat. But look, we are in a crisis, an obesity epidemic that started when we took fat out of the diet. So instead of fat, they had to add something back in, and it came in the form of sugar, came in the form of excess carbohydrates. Our portions have increased. So it's not necessarily the fat that's making us fat. It's the types of foods, and it's the amounts of foods that we're eating. Calories per gram, fat does have the most at 9 grams, as opposed to carbohydrates and proteins that only have 4 grams. So now you just have to watch the portions, but it might be something good for you if you're trying to gain weight. Portions of fats. A fourth a cup of nuts is about 120 to 133 calories. 3 tablespoons of, this is pumpkin seeds, 120. A tablespoon of chia seeds, 130. 83. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, 180. And 2 tablespoons of olive oil is 120 calories. For those of you looking to gain weight, these are healthy fats. They're not going to clog your arteries, so you can eat more of these things. If you're looking to maintain or decrease your weight, just being mindful of your portions of these types of foods. Benefits of fat, they help keep you fuller for longer. They keep you satisfied. They digest a little bit slower in your system, so it sticks with you, so your mood and your energy stays nice and even. It also helps with nourishing your heart, your nerves, your hormones, and your cells. It's great for your hair, your skin, and your nails. And healthy portions of good fats can aid in keeping your weight maintenance at a good level, and it also helps with your weight loss. Because being, feeling full for longer is going to help, so you're not hungry all the time, leading to overeating later along throughout the day. Increases your energy, helps boost your immunity, it helps optimize your digestion, and it makes the food taste better. You actually need some fat to be able to digest some of the fat-soluble vitamins. So if you don't have any fat, you're missing out on vital nutrients for your body. Focus on switching over to healthy fats as opposed to unhealthy fats. So thinking about the foods that you eat create your cells. So if you're eating a bunch of junk, your cells will be junk. They're not going to be functioning correctly for you. So start switching over to these healthy fats. You can be overfed and undernourished. So you can be overeating the bad stuff, but still not be getting your nutrients. And that's going to make you feel real junky. You're not going to sleep well. Your energy is going to be crap. And your skin tone's not going to be so great. You will feel satisfied and less likely to overeat if you're eating the right types of foods. So again, crowding out the bad by increasing your vegetables, fruits, great grains, lean meats, and your healthy fats. How are you going to fit in these healthy fats? You can add nuts to your oatmeal. You can add flaxseed to your breakfast shakes. Sprinkle a tablespoon of nuts or seeds onto your salads. Making your own salad dressing. Experimenting with using avocados on a sandwich. Switching from hummus as opposed to ranch to dip your vegetables. Cooking it in as opposed to going out whenever possible. And to substitute healthy fats for unhealthy fats. So you'll have the handouts for this so you always can refer back to say, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to try this week. All right, so switching the focus from what's inside your blood system fat-wise to what's outside. But what's inside, might be holding on to weight around your belly. Body fat versus muscle. 5 pounds of fat is a lot bigger than 5 pounds of muscle. 5 pounds of muscle does burn more calories throughout your day, but not necessarily so much that you're going to be a fat-burning machine. However, it's leaner and it's denser. Fat just sits there. It burns no calories whatsoever at all, so it's definitely worth it to have some more muscle. It's also going to have you feel better. It's going to increase your self-esteem because you're going to look better. You're going to feel stronger. It's going to help your posture. A lot of benefits there. BMI doesn't take into account your body fat percentage. So some of you, we're doing our individual consultations and you're like, my BMI is telling me that I'm overweight, but I'm very strong and I've been at this weight for my whole life. I wanted to give you a range of reference here between men and women. What's a healthy range with your body fat percentages? All the scales at MS, you're able to calculate your body fat percentage. So you need to not wear any shoes and have your height and your age. You'll program that into the scale and it will give you a calculation there. So you can kind of see where you are as a reference range to this right here. Getting into a healthy range is really important. How are you going to do that? To increase your muscle mass. So looking at the difference between an active and an inactive person. Getting more muscle there. Strength training. Recommended 2 times per week for 20 to 30 minutes. So not too much of a time commitment there, but really great benefits of reducing the signs and the symptoms of numerous diseases. So such as your arthritis, diabetes, osteoporosis, obesity, back pain, and depression. So looking over this woman who started at 35 to 65, osteoporosis can really shrink you in stature. So really working on that strength training, incorporating that into your daily life. Here are some exercises that I've been, was hearing from some of you guys that don't have time or don't have a gym membership. These are some things that you can do at home or during your lunch hour. I want to preface this with, if you've never strength trained before, it's probably the best idea to go and talk to a trainer so they can show you proper form so you're not going to get injured, or enlist into a beginner's strength training DVD. So these are just some ideas, but I wanted to make sure that you're doing it safely since I'm not there to, watch your form. But these are some great exercises that you can do. Your squats, your lunges are great for your legs, and then tricep dips. It always just helps the backs of your arms. So I always tell people if you can keep your arms toned and your butt toned, you're going to look younger because those things start to sink as we age. More strength exercises, your hamstring bridges. That's going to keep the backside of your body, backside of your legs nice and toned. This pull-up bar is pretty inexpensive. It's not a necessity to have, but it gets the backside, your lat muscles, the sides of your back nice and toned. This plank here one of the most important things that you can do to keep your core nice and tight and toned, and it's also going to alleviate your back pain if done correctly. So you can always do it on your knees and build up. You definitely don't have to do it like this guy with one foot flat on the floor. And then push-ups. Really traditional, just push-ups. They're hard. You can always do them on your knees too. Now, to really give yourself a full body routine that is also going to challenge your heart as well is adding a cardio burst. So you can do 20 to 30 minutes of strength and cardio all at the same time. This is going to help maximize your calorie burn by adding just 15 to 60 seconds between your sets. So this first one's a burpee. Put your hands on the floor, you jump back and jump forward. Doing 5 to 15 of those will really get your heart rate pumping. Jumping rope from 15 to 60 seconds can be pretty intense, and also jumping jacks. You have to meet yourself where you are. So at start, you might not need a cardio burst. Strength training is enough to get your heart rate up. You have to do what's right for you. Circuit Training 101. Choosing 3 to 4 strength exercises and then doing 5 to 10 reps of each exercise. So you'll do these consecutively. And then maybe move on to the next movement without rest. So if you can't do that right away, take a little break in between and then move on. And if you'd like to really boost it up, you can add that cardio at the end of that series of 3 to 4 exercises. Once you completed 5 to 20 reps of each one of those exercises, go ahead and take a break for 30 to 120 seconds. And then you can repeat that 3 to 4 times. So that would be just a real quick routine that you can do before work, at work, or after work. Again, enlist an expert trainer if you're working on specific issues, you're having knee or hip pain. You have to do what's best for you. We definitely don't want you to get injured. All right, to review for today, choose good fats over bad fats. Avoid eating trans fats, so read your labels and looking at the ingredients. Fill up on vegetables, fruits, great grains, and lean proteins and healthy fats. Incorporating strength training into your exercise routine. So again, sending me your goals. It's really important that you send me your goals so I can help hold you accountable for you reaching your goals. Goals to date: eating at least 1 green per day, experimenting with great grains, and packing your lunch. That was from the past 3 sessions. Now I'd like to see if you can snack on only vegetables, lean protein, and healthy fats. So boosting those up is not going to hurt anybody. So by eliminating some of the processed packaged foods you get from the vending machine or from chips or a lot of the snacky foods, you're going to help keep your arteries nice and clean. I'm going to give you a recipe for a trail mix with the handout I'm going to send. Vegetables and hummus is a great thing you can pack and bring with you to work. And guacamole and jicama. I added jicama in here because it's another new food for maybe you to experiment with. It's a brown, kind of round vegetable. You'll get it in the vegetable section. But when you cut it, it's white, and it has the same crispiness as celery does to it. So it's a nice thing to dip into your guacamole as opposed to chips. Any questions? So questions, obviously you're listening to this on recording, please send them my way. I would love to hear from you. Love to answer any questions you might have. And then upcoming events. So this mindful eating workshop, it's July 17th at noon. Included in the email I'm going to send you is a link to register. And if you could please register everyone, even if you're going to be with us at the office, just make sure we get enough chairs in the conference room. Again, there'll be a $100 raffle for everybody that attends live at noon that day. Our next meeting is July 13th, so we're actually skipping 2 weeks because of the 4th of July holiday, so just mark your calendars for that. Be aware of the holiday. Make sure not to overdo your eating there. Registration for the Optimal Health Group Round 2 is going to be up very shortly. I'm going to be sending an email to you, again, with a link to register. It's another series of 6 sessions. They're going to meet bi-weekly. We're going to build on all these topics we discussed. There's going to be different topics, though. So it's definitely a great idea to do a whole 6 months of changing your life. So 3 months is only a snapshot. It's sometimes just enough to start scratching the surface. So important that you really jump on for this next session. The Biggest Loser contest. So great, so exciting. Please support your coworkers on this. They're third week in. And then just a reminder for some of you, make sure to watch your videos, especially you guys watching here today. If you're viewing us not at the live time, making sure that you're watching your videos before the next session, and then emailing me once you do, so I'm able to, check you off for attendance. So you want to get 5 out of these 6 sessions to get your 50 wellness points. All right. So that's the end of the presentation today. But I wanted to thank you guys so much for sitting in with me. If you have any questions, again, take full advantage. This is a huge opportunity for you to get support for your health by emailing me and let me know if you have any questions whatsoever at all. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys after the holiday. Have a good, safe 4th of July holiday, and I will see you on July 13th. Take care. See you later.